The Early Weigh-In podcast is back. This week, UFC Vegas 110, going back to the Apex. Not the best well-known main event, man, but should be an absolute banger between Steve Garcia and David Onama. We got 13 fights on tap, ready to break those down. As always, going to recap last week real quick before we get into things. Um, Negative night from both of us at UFC 321. Total minus 2.64 units for me. Looking at the money line side, both of us were on gone there. Missed that. Is what it is. Won't get plus 300 when that's rebooked. I really liked the Rakic side, man, at minus 102. Did not play out anywhere like I thought it would. Minus 1.5 units there, but happened to cash the Ladovic Klein, sketchy in round 3. Then happened to cash Mackenzie Dern with a lot of CLV there as well, new champ. And then I missed on Volkov round 2 and 3 props. Didn't really even stand a chance. Dude was on his back a bunch. And, man, Walter Walker goes out there and makes it look extremely easy. And Azat Maxim, man, shows up overweight, horrible performance. You're in Abu Dhabi and still find a way to lose to Mitroposo. Glad the UFC cut him, man. Difference in a positive or negative night for myself there. Finished again minus 2.64 units. Ready to jump into this week, man. Looking to get back in the green here. How'd you do?
Yeah, it's tough, man, because straight bets, I went up, 4.5 units roughly. I hit a plus 350, a plus 275 for 2 units. My reads I felt like were there, but still ended up negative. Just a lot of wasted units. I tried to hit some unders. Fight doesn't go the distance in the Klein-Rebecki fight. If Rebecki would have just gotten off of Klein, I go positive there. I had 2.2 units on him. Ladovitz Klein's ankles completely out of socket, whatever it is, and that fight could have been stopped. The under 2.5 in the Wood versus Delgado. Woods, kind of notorious for getting chin checked, fighting through it, but he took some bigger shots than I expected him to take that night. Had minus 115 on the under 2.5 there. I was on Maxim a little bit differently, but he didn't look himself and probably a little bit overrated. He's just one of these guys who makes fights close. So, hate that we were both on him. Ikram Alaskarov versus Jun Young Park, under 2.5 rounds. I think I got a little greedy there. I just wanted some action. Jun Young Park, very durable, and, he proved it on Saturday. Let's see. I was on the Mackenzie Dern side as well with you. The closing line value was nice. Cyril Gahn, that's a bummer, dude, because plus 320, plus 300. Like you said, we're not going to get that back. Started off the night Mizuki Inoue at plus 350. That was a nice 3.5 unit cushion. I needed all of it. Alexander Volkov for 2 units at plus 175. We talked about him. The UFC was going to help him out,
UFC owed him one.
Yeah, absolutely. Nasrat Haqparast. I don't know, dude. For while it lasted, I was like, this is going okay, but damn it, dude. That was one of the nastiest knockouts of the year. Mario Bautista, I thought he was putting up a decent fight at first, but Umar just really knows how to wear on somebody. Not the most exciting fight, but it was, plus 500. I've made worse bets for sure. And then Rakic as well. Initially, I was not wanting to play him, and then I just felt like I was missing out a little bit if I didn't play him. So I put a little money on him, and sure enough, Rakic goes out there and does what Rakic does, man. Ended up the night minus 0.6 units. Tough one, but we can get back on track, man. It's not too bad. I think for a pretty terrible pay-per-view, we've got a low name value card with a lot of good spots for betting opportunity, and I think that we're going to see some violence this Saturday.
I agree.
So let's see. We start off the night where I think we both have already, planted our flag in the women's strawweight division. Talita Alencar taking on Ariane Carnelossi. Obviously, there's high potential that Ariane Carnelossi just gets grounded and completely worked by the superior grappler in Talita Alencar. But I think Alencar struggles to set up those takedowns. Obviously she's a BJJ grappler who needs to work on her wrestling and her striking. With Carnelossi, she's a striker first. Sometimes she'll mix in the grappling, but I really hope that she tries to keep this on the feet, just defend those takedowns and be the more physical fighter. Talita Alencar, I think when she does enter the pocket, she might get to the hips of Carnelossi, but I expect Carnelossi to be able to really just like shrug her off for the most part. The physicality is the biggest difference. And I think that that's where she's going to be able to edge out a lot of these positions, land a little bit more of the damaging shots, and ultimately win on the judges' scorecards. But I wouldn't be surprised if somebody's getting knocked out, Carnelosi's getting that knockout against Alencar. Alencar could find a submission finish, though, because we have seen Carnelosi exposed in the past. At plus 200, it's really hard to pass up, though. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty much the same way. On the Alencar side, you touched on it, world-class jiu-jitsu. We know where she's good. She knows where she's good. She tends to go in there and look to land takedowns early. And quite frankly, early at least, they may come easy. But man, she just doesn't have anything else outside of that. There's no striking. There's a very poor gas tank. On the Carnelosi side, we've seen her survive a really early heavy pace storm against Na Liang. We've seen her turn around and use her own offensive wrestling late in fights against Estela Nunez. And when I see these girls who have dominated Carnelosi on the mat, like I can't compare Alencar's wrestling to Lupi or Pierre Rodriguez. Like her jiu-jitsu is good, but her ability to get the fight to the mat is nowhere on the level of the two girls I just mentioned. So yeah, I don't think it's out of the question that we see Carnelosi stuff some of these takedowns, and she's going to win every minute on the feet. She's going to box this girl up. She's going to win all the big moments. Dogger pass to me 100%, man, on you, or on Carnelosi at plus 200 as well. I've even considered the KO prop at 650 or KO2 1800, KO3 2200. Like, I do think Alencar, if she's successful, it's only in round one. And outside of that, I think the takedowns get harder and harder, and she starts to get boxed up later in this fight. So might find myself a little bit more on the Carnelosi side, getting cute with some props. But at plus 200, man, it was a pretty easy bet for me. Glad to see you on the same thing. I do have another dog shot here. At 170, we got Phil Rowe taking on Sung Hyuk Ko. Rowe, pretty much all the intangibles in the world to be good, man. Long, athletic, fast, on the feet. His boxing is honestly like, I think he's a top 10 boxer in the UFC. Like his hands are smooth, man. He throws in combination. You see him doing all these grappling competitions on the outside, but ultimately that tends to be his downfall in the cage. As guy can get grounded, the grappling pace can wear on him, and kind of slow builder into fights. Tends to have to get hit, wake up a little bit in the first round. But yeah, man, at plus money, to me, he's clearly the side here. On the co side last time, before taping and going into this card, I was like, Mizuki Inoue might have been the bet of the year, but I completely forgot that Ko was plus 400 to Oban Elliott last time, and that to me is probably the bet of the year. Like never looked a dog anywhere in that fight, and now we see him lined, as a favorite to somebody that is way more physical than he is, who's got like a 9-inch reach advantage, 5 inches in height, who is way likelier to finish him. The two times we've seen Ko finish, it is getting knocked out. And when Phil Rowe's got the advantage on the feet and all that length, the power advantage, yeah, man, this one to me is clearly Phil Rowe or pass. If Ko doesn't come out here and land takedowns, I don't really know if he even looks a favorite in this fight. So I'm happy on the Phil Rowe side. Cashed him last time out. Always a bit hairy, but I'm not laying chalk, man. It's plus 150. Think you might feel a little bit different maybe, but I'm on the Phil Rowe side.
Yeah, so I was happy to cash the Rowe side as well with you last time. I was just telling you when we were talking earlier in the week, it was one of the more exciting cashes I think I've ever had. You know, the way he just built and built on beating up Angelusa, and then those short shots right before the finish. I mean, he's got an awesome game to watch because he just builds on his momentum. But something that I noticed about Ko is that even though, he might have to make this fight grindy, he embraces that grind and he doesn't really slow down very much. And I think that that's going to be an issue with Phil Rowe kind of earning his respect. I think Ko's maybe a little bit sharper of like a sniper. He can like manage his distance a little bit well. Rowe on the other side, a little bit better pure boxer, but I think really struggles with gaining the respect of fighters. And then on top of it, you kind of talked about the intangibles of Rowe, and yes, I agree. He should be one of these high caliber talents, but I liken him to somebody like Jamie Pickett, where it's like, he has everything that he could to be great, but he just doesn't mix it together the best all the time. And, I think if these guys were similar size, this would be a great spot on Co, but because of the size difference, it's kind of making me hold back on betting Co. But I do think that he's a better MMA fighter, and he'll probably just force his will on Phil Rowe over the course of 3 rounds. Probably won't be pretty, though. And if I were making a bet, given this fight right here, I would also be on the Rowe side just because there is some potential for him to find success. I'm just not willing to trust him here. Moving back to the strawweight division, we have Montserrat Conejo Ruiz taking on Elise Ardeline. I think Ruiz is just too small for the division. Ardeline isn't very good, but she's willing to bang, and if she winds up on top, I'm pretty sure she's going to stay there. Not much about this fight that I like. Odds are, I'd never bet on Montserrat Ruiz, to be honest with you.
Right.
And Ardeline at minus 400 makes me want to throw up. So I'm out on the fight entirely. Ardeline's the pick, but I guess, it's so low level that anything could happen here. Right. Ardeline should roll, though.
Yeah, I don't really know how much I could add. I feel like what Ardeline did last time out against Rayando Santos is clearly shown me enough she could get through Ruiz here. Ruiz is like 1-4 in the UFC or something like that. It's been finished in her last couple. I was kind of wondering, why she was still on the roster. I actually saw someone online say that I think she's married to the guy who does the commentating for the UFC Latin America. So I think she's got some ends in the UFC or something, because truth be told, I don't really know why she's here. And yeah, Ardeline at minus 300, minus 400 makes you want to puke. Would never lay that type of chalk, but you said, yeah, I feel like if she winds up on top, she's safe. The volume's going to be there, and she still does feel like the better fighter. Ruiz is head and arm thrower. That's about all she's got. So, yeah, give me Ardeline. Give me Ardeline by decision. I don't think she's going to get the finish. Ketlin Vieira taking on Norma Dumont at 135, man. The fight may be on the card with the most implications. The top-ranked fighters buried all the way down here on the prelims, You got a girl in Dumont who's won 8 of her last 9. 5 in a row now. It's number 1 contender, maybe even a title shot with a win here. I think the bigger cage favors her. She's definitely the better girl with the better footwork, the better striker. She seems way faster. I think she's going to double up Vieira on volume very easily, laying the bigger, more visible shots. That fight against Irene Aldana, man, super, super impressive, man. The way she was able to move, doubt out on the inside, land her shots, get back out, honestly really hurting Irene Aldana. I liked what I saw, but here's the thing, man. Ketlin Vieira has been in there with, honestly, the best in the world, and she's super physical. And honestly, I think she could win a lot of minutes by just sticking Dumont on the cage, or maybe even landing some takedowns of her own. I haven't pulled the trigger yet on Ketlin Vieira. I don't like the fact that she's a woman I've seen knocked out cold before, and I do think she's going to be the significantly slower fighter and have nowhere near the volume. I can't lay minus 170, minus 180 on Norma Dumont in this spot, man. It's a Vieira or pass for me. I'll pick Vieira. I'll pick Vieira by boring decision.
Small disagreement here, but nothing that I'd be acting on. I'm on the Norma Dumont side. I think that she is just a little bit cleaner of an MMA fighter. I think that she has more ways to win. Vieira, like you said, a little physical, and that goes a long way in women's MMA. But with Norma being, I feel like similar in the physicality, she'll be able to kind of stop some of the forward pressure that Vieira might be able to put on her, and then just touch her up a little bit whenever they're at distance, and it'll be enough to win a decision. Not going to be a clean one necessarily, but I line her as the favorite. I was considering, if she got to minus 110 when the line opened, that I would play her in a pick 'em. But at minus 160, minus 170, I have zero interest in betting that spot. So complete pass for me. Let's see. Moving up to the middleweight division, we have Dante Johnson versus Cedriquez Dumas. I'm on Dante Johnson in our fantasy league. I kind of regret it. I think that there's high upside for him to finish, but then again, he's 6-0 with all of his wins against super overweight heavyweights or light heavyweights, and he's 5'8". He should have never been in those divisions to begin with. All of them being in round 1, I am a little worried that Cedriquez could come out here, put on a wrestling game plan, and just wear on him for at least a round, and then I think it's anybody's fight. Sure, I think Dante Johnson has a lot of potential to knock him out. He's going to be the more powerful guy, but he's going to be the smaller guy, not as long. And then less UFC experience, even though Cedric Dumas, it's, 50-50 if he actually makes it to the cage. It's a pass for me, but if I am tempted, if you come in here talking up Cedric Dumas, to lay a unit on him, because I don't know, dude. He's not great anywhere, but he's at least a pure athlete, and I just think that he has some physical advantages that I could lean towards. So if the number's right and you back it up, I don't know, I could be on it.
You won't hear me hyping up Dumas, man. Unfortunately, I truly, when he come into the UFC, like, I don't know, he's coming off, the Contender Series where he snatches up that nice power guillotine. The fight before that, he has that nice head kick knockout. Like, since then, man, he's not 100% committed to getting better. I don't even want to touch on all the outside of the octagon issues that he has, but ultimately in the cage, man, I like his kicks, I like his grappling, but I don't really like his hands, and I don't think he's got much to deter Dante Johnson from coming forward early in this fight. I kind of feel like Johnson's just going to get in his face early, and I don't think Dumas really likes to get hit, man. I think he's going to get put on his back foot and get welled on early. Maybe he's a good live spot if you were to survive it, but I think he loses round one at a severely high clip. But then you got a guy in Johnson, like you said, who's never been out of round one, who's cutting the middleweight for the first time in his career. Saw someone post today, he had a big old hole in his knee from staph. Yeah, man. I don't know.
It's a Cedric or pass spot, I'm telling
you. It is. I mean, and look, Johnson's one loss, I'm pretty sure, is by head kick. So, Cedric is 6'2", a good head kick, height advantage, UFC experience. He's the side that I would play. He's just not shown me anything recently that makes me think he's even taking it serious at this point, man. So it's an easy pass for me. But if he's still there after round one, and I think Johnson's blown his wad, slowing down, I could see myself entering live on him. This is a fight I'm super pumped about, man. At 135, Timothy Kwamba making his bantamweight debut, taking on Chang Ho Lee. Kwamba, he's just one of those guys that's like, he's good everywhere, just not great anywhere, He comes from a good camp, good coach. You can tell he's super well-rounded, really solid kickboxer, 100% the better striker here. And if he's able to stuff these takedowns, man, I think he wins this fight on the feet. He's fought the much better competition as well. On the Lee side, it's just the pace, man. Like, I'm not really falling for the Korean Khabib stuff. I think the guys he's beaten really haven't tested him too much as well. I think his ceiling is high with the way he fights. I just really haven't seen it against a guy like Timothy Kwamba, a guy like Timothy, who I think is getting a good wrestling look every single day in the gym, And so Lee is one of these guys that, to me, the pace is great, but it just kind of feels one-dimensional, man. And if he's not getting these takedowns on Timothy Kwamba, he's not winning this fight in my eyes. I'm not really confident on either side. My gut tells me Timothy's fought these better guys. He's going to keep it on the feet, win the minutes at the kickboxing range. So I'm going to side with Timothy Kwamba. What you thinking here? You confident on either side?
I think trust your gut, Preston. I mean, For real, I think Timothy Kwamba is maybe one of the plays of the year. I'll definitely be on him. I think he's a much better fighter. I think that Ko's been severely overrated against not great level of competition, and Kwamba's just got to really shit into the stick with the matchups that he's received in the UFC so far. You touched on it. I think he is great everywhere. I mean, literally, I think it's just about him finding his weight class, and he's finally up against a guy who's been fighting Asian regional scene guys, and he can. Kwamba's finally going to be able to showcase his skills. He did it a little bit against Roberto Romero last time out, and that dude's way more physical, I think, than Chang Ho Lee, just size-wise. I think Kwamba rolls here, dude, and I think we're getting an excellent price tag on it. So probably another 2-unit shot for me on the Kwamba side. I'm not going to miss out on that. I just think he's a better UFC fighter.
I'll be there with you.
All right. Light heavyweight, Kevin Christian versus Billy Elikana. Christian, dude, I mean, tall, not a great body for the division. It just doesn't look like he's, in the gym every single day. Seems like he's probably gotten here on size alone. Billy Elikana doesn't push enough of a pace for me to want to bet him at this price tag. I feel like it's another he might point fight his way and also get himself in trouble because Christian is long. But I think that Elikana is going to eat him up with calf kicks. Christian is kind of flat-footed, probably gets point fighted 15 minutes. Billy Elikana decision. I'm not trying to touch it though. I'm really not, especially at minus 250. So pass for me.
Super easy pass for me as well. I don't think too high of this Kevin Christian guys to be as big as he is. He doesn't know how to use his size whatsoever. You know, he just swings big, doesn't use his range, and off his back, it's, you know, he's able to submit these guys on the regional scene. But honestly, like somebody that size in the UFC, I feel like if someone gets on top of you, it's almost a disadvantage being that long. You know, I don't know. I feel like you can't get your hips out and things at the highest level. So I kind of feel like these subs off his back. I mean, Paul Craig's the only guy, you know, we see out here consistently submitting guys off his back. It's rare, you know. And on the Alicana side, ton of line movement in his direction this week. I get it because I think he's a better fighter. I think he's a way better striker. I think he could find his way on top with the wrestling and stay safe. He's got the UFC experience. So I think it's an easy Alicana pick for me. But, I mean, what has dude shown to warrant laying minus 225? You know, he quit against Guskov in round 2, and I mean, neither one, him or Ibo Aslan, did anything in their last fight. So I don't know. He's done nothing to really show me that he should be minus 225, and I feel like everybody's steaming that line this week's. It's more of a fade on this Kevin Christian than it is a bet on Billy Alicana.
Can I interest you in 1.5 units on the over 1.5 at minus 148? I think that's the spot.
I do. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to play it because it's light heavyweights, but yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it goes over.
It's better than betting either of the money lines, in my opinion.
I think I'd have to agree, man. I really do. This is a really good fight. It's a catchweight, 130. Both these guys, huge flyweights. Alon Nascimento taking on Cody Durden. Durden stepping in here on short notice. Unfortunately, 1-4 of his last 5, and, you know, finishing a couple of those as well. I kind of think he might be the better boxer of the two at range here. I know Nascimento's got pretty good clinch work, but I actually think Cody Durden's probably has the better hands here of the two. And honestly, he's a really good wrestler, man. Cody Durden's problem is, and it's not even so much Cody Durden's cardio, it's the fact that he just mismanages the gas tank. You know, Cody Durden red lines like immediately and fights like his life depends on it at all times of the fight, and ultimately that's his downfall. And you know, for his style of fight, I think he needs to be in the best shape. And so taking it on short notice it brings in some questions and some red flags for me. On the Lon Nascimento side, I mean, incredible fight on Dana White Contender Series, man. One of the top 5 fights probably in Contender Series history. And then you come in and you perform super well in your debut loss. And then ever since then, it's 3 fights since 2021. You're missing weight, you're pulling out. And so I don't really know what to think of Nascimento as well. Nascimento is a massive flyweight. I think they both kind of gas. I don't know, man. I'm gonna side with the dog here. I'm gonna side with Cody Durden. I don't think he'd be taking this fight if he wasn't in somewhat good a shape, and I just don't know, man. Nascimento, he just doesn't do it for me. I think he's a little bit of a quitter. I think he's going to slow down, and Durden showed me that he has some dog in him, you know, and so I don't think Nascimento is going to set a pace like a Joshua Van or anybody like that. And this more resembles the Jake Hadley fight a little bit to me. So yeah, plus 240. I'll take Cody Durden, man.
So yeah, I'm on the other side, and I think pretty clear Nascimento is going to sub him. You know, when I look at the guys who are beating Cody Durden, Jimmy Flick, Muhammad Mukayev, Tagir Ulanbekov, like those are the type of guys with the grappling that might not even be the same caliber or at least on par with Alon Nascimento. I put him in that same group where I think that this is a fight where Durden, to be competitive, he's probably going to shoot for takedowns like he always does. And Nascimento's very good at wrapping up a guillotine or finding a scramble where he gives up his back initially, but he always winds up on top. I don't think I've ever seen a fight where Nascimento doesn't end up on top in scrambles. And when he is, I think that Durden's a little, uncomfortable off of his back and will make a mistake that will ultimately lead to him getting submitted by Nascimento. We've got the under 2.5 set at plus 100. So if the line comes out that Nascimento's by sub is plus 250, I'm in, brother.
Yeah. I think that's why he wins.
You like it?
I think it's the way he wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I do too. Because the alternative is that Durden is able to find the takedowns or is able to keep it on the feet and win by landing the more damaging shots and maybe wins a decision. But in the event of a finish, I really think that Nascimento's tough enough to withstand all of Durden's pressure and will eventually find that sub. So
I think a Nascimento sub is the most likely finish method of the fight. So I like it.
I'm just wondering what they're going to give us on the line,
Yeah.
Under 2.5 being plus 100, though, it makes me think that we could get 2-1 or better on Nascimento sub. So that's how I'm looking to play it for sure. Moving on to the 170-pound division, we have Charles Radke taking on Daniel Frunze. I mean, neither guy is great. I think that Radke could really expose the grappling defense of Frunze. Radke is, a couple of times in his fights, I think against like Blood Diamond is the fight that I'm thinking of. He reverted to kind of just cage pushing, cage control, and then grappling. And I think that there's high potential he does that to Frunze. Frunze's been grounded plenty of times. He throws hard, so does Radke. So, I mean, there's potential for a finish on the feet. But I think that there's probably going to be a time where Radke gets caught just a little bit on the feet and he'll revert to his grappling because he knows he has an advantage there. And just ride out a win on the scorecards is kind of what I'm worried about.
I hate that you're worried about that. I'm not sure if you saw my play.
I did. I was trying to justify if I could play that again, and then I saw the Radke Blood Diamond fight, and I was like, no, dude, no. If he gets touched once, he's going to the well and he's going to cage push. I don't know.
I'm pretty confident there's a finish here. I did play it at minus 235. It's ultimately a line that I think could be a little bit north of minus 300. I think this fight finishes about a 70% clip. Both of them have clear durability issues, in my opinion. We've seen Radke hurt and put down multiple times. Frunze's tough, but Frunze has no defense, and Frunze gets dropped very easily. And you think you're worried about him exposing the grappling. I think Chuck Buffalo's boxing could just box Frunze up early in this fight. I think Frunze is tough but has zero defense and just knows to come forward. So I think Radke is the much cleaner fighter everywhere. But when he's got the durability issues that I think he has, I was much happier to lay minus 230 on it doesn't go the distance than a minus 170 on Radke because I think Radke finishes the fight 9 times out of 10. And if Frunze pulls this off, I think it's by knockout. So I think we see a finish here. I contemplated trying to find a parlay leg, maybe Dolgarian up next, but ultimately, man, it was like 40 points better than any other book. I thought I had some good edge there. So minus 2.35 or 2.35 units at minus 235 to return a unit straight. Doesn't go the distance. I like violence. I like Charles Radke inside the distance. This next fight here, man, one of my absolute favorite fights on the card, Isaac Dolgarian taking on Yadier Duval. Dude, Isaac Dolgarian, ultimately, man, I think the sky's the limit for the dude, honestly. I think he's got potential to be a real problem in the division. Honestly, I think his grappling in wrestling is just on another level. Like, this is an all-American wrestler whose jiu-jitsu, blends super, super good, man. And when he's on top, he doesn't just consolidate position. Like, he's raining ground and pound down. He wants to finish these fights. If he gets caught with you, stuck with you on the feet, it's a bit of an unknown, but as physical as he is and stuff, man, there's not many guys that are going to be able to stop these takedowns. The biggest issue for Dolgarian is if you make him work a bunch, we don't know if he can keep that up for 15 minutes. Now, we only have one really sample size of that, and it's C-Rod, who, quite frankly, does that to everybody who wants to grapple him. So I'm kind of hesitant to say that it's actually a big issue for Dolgarian. On the Davale side, man, one of my best plays this year, I thought I hit Davale plus 110 inside the distance against Connor Matthews for 2 units earlier in this year. Was a super easy inside the distance play for me. I like the Davale guy. I think he's got the advantage on the feet here. I like the way he sits down on his punches. Bulgarian's going to wrestle. Davale likes to jump guillotine. I don't think it's the most technical guillotine. I feel like Bulgarian can find his way out of it on top, but it is going to present itself, you know. And then again, you know, we talk about Davale potentially being able to take over later in this fight. So I like Isaac Bulgarian. I really liked Isaac Bulgarian at like minus 190, minus 200 earlier in the week. He's steamed up, you know, into minus 270 at this point. I, I'm picking Bulgarian, man, but ultimately, Davale might be able to make him work enough that this fight gets hairy. And so I think a lot of people are writing off Yadier Duvall on Saturday, and my gut tells me he makes it a little bit closer than this line indicates. Still going to side with Isaac. Isaac going to win the first 2 rounds, in my opinion, if he doesn't get a finish. Just, I don't know, man. Super weird feeling, and that's why I laid off the Bulgarian parlay leg. What's your thoughts here?
I think Bulgarian absolutely rolls. I am worried about the toughness of Yadier Davale, and you know how I like to fade an undefeated fighter. I think they lose by decision more often than not for their first loss. I think the Bulgarian comes in here. I mean, this is quite the step up from his last fight that he took. I forget even the dude's name, Moret.
Yeah, Brandon Moreau.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Brandon Moreau.
Yeah, Brandon Moreau. I mean, yeah, not a UFC caliber fighter. Christian Rodriguez went to split decision. I think Yadier Vale is tough enough to withstand the pressure of Bulgarian, but he's too susceptible to getting taken down, too willing to accept his back for the guillotine. And I think Bulgarian's smart enough to avoid getting finished there. And I think he rolls. So you can get Bulgarian by decision at plus 280. And I think that's how I'm looking at playing this fight if I do anything. Bulgarian sub at plus 400 stood out to me, but I think that's heartbreak waiting to happen, to be honest with you. So Bulgarian decision plus 280 is how I'd be looking to look at this fight. Moving on to the welterweight division, Jeremiah Wells taking on Thimba Garimbo. I think we're on a disagreement here as well. Jeremiah Wells, you know, aging, he's like approaching 40 years old. He throws with just reckless abandon, and he's a lot of fun to watch. Sometimes he finds himself, you know, just being able to be the more physical fighter, and he'll find himself on top of other people. But Thimba Garimbo, he's like sneaky strong. Like, he has really good hips, and even when he is pressured up against the cage, he somehow finds a way to just, like I said, it's the hips. Every single time that somebody's trying to take Garimbo down, he's able to just kind of like straighten out, find his way on top. And then the times where he's shooting, I think that he can kind of wear on Jeremiah Wells as the round goes on. Obviously, there's potential for him to get clipped, but Thimba, I think, throws straighter shots, which are going to find the target quicker than Jeremiah Wells' looping punches. And, you know, obviously anybody subject to get knocked out, power's the last thing to go. So it'll be hairy. Not necessarily a spot that I'm looking to play, but I am picking Thimba Garimbo to get it done, probably by decision. And I don't even know what that's sitting at, but that would be how I'm looking to play this fight. Do you have it by chance? Okay. Garimbo decision plus 240. Yeah. I mean, not enough for me. That's going to be too tight for me to want to like sit through that. But Garimbo by decision is how I see this fight going.
Look, I see the red flags on the 38-year-old. Little bit of a dodgy chin, kind of pulling from fights here recently. I get it, dude, but he's so much more physical, has so much more power, man. I feel like he has so much finishing potential on the feet and on the mat. People really look at his physique and his knockout over Court McGee, and they sleep on this guy's grappling. Like, you know, this guy's, you know, Marquez MMA. This is Sean Brady. This is Joe Pfeiffer. You know, like, this guy is a legit Daniel Gracie black belt. And when I look at that Carlston Harris fight, a fight that I think is very similar in style, body composition, everything to Thimba Garimbo, Wells goes out there and, I mean, is too powerful, too physical for Harris in the grappling transition, and winds up on top in all these fights. And Carlston Harris, being as long as he is, pulls an anaconda standing up against the cage. I mean, like, weird finish, something Garimbo's not going to pull, man. Garimbo, he's the more patient of the two. He's not throwing himself so wild that he's coming off his feet. He covers up. I'll give him that. Maybe he's the more durable of the two, but I think the power is so much different that if he lands on Garimbo's chin, Garimbo's going down, man. And you brought up the point that I do kind of fear, and it's the back half of the fight and Garimbo's wrestling. But dude, if I think he's in for a world of hell for 7.5 minutes, and the way he's reacting to this last loss, the whole shutting down his solar powered library, dude. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff.
He's locked in, brother.
No, he's not. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of out of octagon stuff going on in the life. I think that's why he's been out for a while. And you got a guy who's an absolute behemoth in front of you at plus 120, all the finishing upside. Give me Jeremiah Wells. Honestly, man, I wouldn't be shocked if he locks up another front choke the same way Vicente Luque did. So I like Jeremiah Wells. I like Jeremiah Wells finished. I think people are sleeping on him this week. A fight you and I do have some action on, some big boys at heavyweight. Waldo Cortez Acosta taking on Ante Delija. You and I are both on Delija side for 2 units at minus 105. Costa, good footwork, decent speed for heavyweight, man. You'll see him put out some good volume. Boxing, primarily just about the only thing that he really has. And I will say I think he's got an above-average gas tank for heavyweight. But he's not dangerous, man, like whatsoever. There's only one person in this fight that wants to come forward and finish, and that's Delija. I feel like he holds a very healthy amount of the finishing equity here, pretty much all the wrestling upside. The way he starts round one, I think it's him all day. You look at the experience that he has when they're both – dude, they're like 9 or 10 months apart in age, and Delija's got triple his fights at the highest level. You talk about who Delicia's training with as well. It's Aspinall, it's Modestas Pocascas, Phil DeFreeze, Mick Parkin, like guys who are having real success right now, And so I think his camp situation is great. Yeah, dude, this was Delicia or pass. I'm glad this is the side I was eyeing. We're glad to hear you text me earlier in the week. Looks like we got some closing line value on it. I think he finishes him. I like Delicia inside the distance.
I mean, yeah, I'm on Delija. I told you whenever you asked me what I saw about Delija, it was more that it's a fade on Acosta. I think he's overperformed for the majority of his UFC career. After I think I was on Pavlovich pretty heavy in their last fight. And, man, I still think he's being a little overvalued here. Delija, like you said, I think he'll, win optically just by the forward pressure that he puts on. And the only people that I'm really worried about Delija fighting are people like Sergey Pavlovich, who is going to push the pace back up Delija, who's notorious for backing up against the cage to just throw down. I don't think that Acosta is pushing the pace to be able to exploit that. So Delija's the side. We're getting closing line value and one of the easier trigger pulls of the week for me. I mean, I feel maybe not as confident as Timmy Kumba, but pretty close, man. And we're getting a great line on it too. So yeah, give me on to Delija. Even Tom Aspinall's worried that he's going to get the belt one day, and he's running. So moving on to the main event, we have Steve Garcia versus David Onama. Initially, listen, I've faded David Onama in so many fights. You know better than anybody. I always try and fade him because sometimes he just doesn't take shots very well. But this is getting a little out of hand, dude. I think that he's the side here. I think that he has way more paths to victory. I think, with both of these guys having somewhat questionable chins, Onama in an odd way reacts better whenever he does get tagged. And I think that there's upside for him to win in the grappling. Obviously, round one is going to be a barn burner. Right. Steve Garcia goes out there and he's ready to kill somebody, and Onama sometimes just takes a little bit to get started. And it's a pick 'em for a reason, but I think more often than not, David Onama's winning, and he's a pretty clear side for me. I might find a unit on him. He's sitting at I can get plus 115 right now. That's probably enough. So I'll probably put a unit on him just so I can have a little action on the main event. I think it's a plus EV play, but am I going to be surprised if Steve Garcia goes up there and knocks him out in round one? No, but I think almost every other outcome points to David Onama, so I'll be playing him.
Dude, anybody complaining about this fight sucks, dude. This is going to be an absolute banger. I've struggled with ultimately who I'm going to pick here. I think I agree with you, especially at 115. Onama's the side for me. It's ultimately it, but it's going to be how he deals with that forward pressure, of Steve Garcia, because Garcia's going to come forward. Garcia's going to throw volume. He's going to work the body. Dude's on a tear right now. Six fights in a row that he's won, 5 finishes. Massive for the weight class as well. But he's the one of the two that I've seen deaded with one shot, slept, and Onama's showed me a plethora of evidence that he loves a dogfight, that he can recover, and that he might slow down, but he's still got it in him. And I don't know, man. I just feel like, I don't know. I haven't seen that from Garcia, where Onama has shown me that. I think Onama's fought the better slate of guys. I think he's got the faster, cleaner boxing, just the more technical of the two. I think he's got the better wrestling and grappling of the two as well. Yeah, Onama's a dog, man, at plus 115. I think as the fight progresses, I think he kind of starts building into it. And, yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Onama's going to be the side for me as well. Don't know if I find myself on it. I like my spots that I'm on a lot this week, so I might just kind of enjoy this main event while it lasts. Yeah, I'll side with Onama. I appreciate you guys hanging out with us as always. All 13 fights going down at UFC Vegas 110. Keep an eye out on Twitter for the rest of our plays, and as always, we'll be back next week.
Peace.